GMC has given us so many amazing moments, and this was kind of no exception. Even though there was points where I wanted to cringe my eyes out, kind of like this, I think it gave us a lot of quality disc golf. So with that, let's get into how GMC actually ended and why it was an amazing, chaotic mess. And before we get to the finish itself, I thought I would talk about why there was a lot of things that really just kind of bummed me out. The first one being coverage. And I don't know about you, I don't know if this is becoming like a mainstay on tour, but every single time I tried to load the app, within about 5 minutes, the entire stream closes. And if it doesn't close, it'll go into a continuous loop of trying to load. So I have to close the app, reopen it, and then the same cycle will keep happening. And I don't know if this is actually due to GMC. Do know that they have very spotty coverage, but I'm kind of wondering if it's more of an issue with the actual live streaming platform. But looking at comments, I know I was not alone in this fact, and it just kind of makes me facepalm because I know we are so much better, but week after week I keep seeing this, and I know a lot of people in particular had the same issue. But the next major issue that I saw was stroke separation on this course. Now actually FPO was very on point with this, I really can't say too much about it, but for MPO it was a totally different story, and I can't remember if I really felt this last year, but I may have just gotten sucked up into the hype of Foxtron and Brewster because these courses are legendary, and if you have not played them, I highly recommend you do, and especially with the fall colors, it just looks like the most epic picture you could ever see in disc golf. But with that said, I do think the MPO layouts were just incredibly easy, at least for the top tier pros. And you may be saying like, yeah, they're pros, they're gonna birdie whatever. But here are some very interesting stats. For the holes 6 and 10 in this final round, 80% or more of players birdied. And I do not think that is a very good trend, especially in a course which we consider the playoffs, which I know doesn't actually matter, but I'm just so certain that we can do something to make these holes just a little bit harder, because I honestly feel like some of these par 4 and 5s, and especially some of these par 3s, the challenge required and shot shape required are very doable, and I honestly think that I could do it myself. And that's not to say it's incredibly easy, especially with the wind. I'm sure at points it's very difficult, but for these top tier pros, we need to be challenging them more, or at least making it a lot more attainable to get higher numbers on these holes. And while I do definitely see that as a problem, I do think Brewster Ridge does so many things right. Maybe that's just a factor of so much randomness, so many woods that do offer a lot of 50-50s where it can really put you way off the path, or just get a lucky break all the way to the basket. I saw that a lot this weekend, but honestly that type of play I have no issues with because the challenge is very obvious but also very difficult to execute, whereas Fox Run seems to be a lot of holes that every single person can birdie, which while being very fun, it also means that there are so many holes that just don't really matter. Like the only repercussion of a bad shot is probably taking par and maybe bogey, but probably not. Unless you're Simon, in which case you just kind of had a meltdown today, finishing his round at 8 over, putting him back 46 places. I cannot believe that. Finishing that round with 3 doubles and 1 triple. I can probably bet he just wanted to get back home with his kids and was pretty tilted. And oh yeah, it was a 929 rated round. If you have been looking for a great disc golf shoe, look no further than Vessi's Stormburst. With breathable, waterproof fabric, these will certainly give you a great disc golf experience. And if you're like me and love a great deal, go to vessi.com/wildruns to save 15% off your order for new customers. Back to the video. And I was kind of thinking to myself, like, why is this the case that all of these holes feel so very gettable, and it feels like we should have changed this? Like, is the tour not that developed? We can't just force the players to have harder holes? And then I looked at the TD and it all kind of made sense. The TD is Jeff Spring. Obviously we know Jeff Spring is like the tour director, and I'm betting he's very much a person that did not want to change anything about this course, which leads us to so many holes being so easy to get for birdie. And while I totally get the point of not wanting to change things because it just has like some historic value, I think we lose a lot of what is great about the modern era of tour, because so many of these holes are easy birdies for so many players, and nobody wants to see easy birdies because it's effectively like the hole never even happened, with so many players basically getting the same score on every single hole. But even though I do think this course is just a little bit too easy, I love the nature and vibe of this course, so I think it is totally possible to rearrange some holes and layouts to make it a much more difficult and rewarding course. With that, let's get into who was actually in contention in this final round. Now, you may have expected Isaac to really be in the mix, ultimately really wasn't, never in it. And despite Alden getting one of the sickest aces in round 3, his final round was very solid with a 9 under, but still never even close to the winner. But you can definitely tell there's a level of contempt for the winner. And then next up, Corey, who I honestly think is one of the best players I have ever watched. Somehow he finished his final round with 1 par, 2 doubles and a bogey, and the rest birdies. I honestly don't know how I even feel about that round. Like, it sounds like one of the best rounds ever and kind of totally cursed. It's somewhere in the middle. And while Evan did finish in 3rd place, I never really felt like he was that that much in the mix. So the real contenders were Gannon and Ricky. And if you're watching it all this weekend, you may be like, was it even a battle? Like Ricky was down by 7 strokes. Like I didn't even tune in because I knew it was kind of a done deal. I mean, yes, that was how it ended up, but there was a couple of moments where you thought Gannon might choke, might kind of crumble in this final round, but Ricky was dialed. So many easy upshots, easy birdie looks that honestly, if he was battling anybody else besides Gannon, I think he probably would have netted the win. And I really feel like his putter is feeling the most confident it's looked all year. Even when he's out of position, he still finds a way to get to the basket, but really the only misses that Gannon had the entire final round was a couple of OBs, but like I said earlier, all these OBs didn't really affect the final score that much because you could still save par, which actually included one of the most insane near aces to roll OB right next to some kids that just did not care.
Wow. Off the basket. Whoa.
Probably one of the most insane moments I've ever seen because they honestly look like they couldn't care less. But while Ricky's putter is very strong, there is something about Gannon's putt that is just so effortless. Every single putt, no matter if it's 30, no matter if it's 40, 50, it looks like he's just gonna make it. And if you are battling against a player like that, I think your odds of finishing strong are just so much more minimal, even if you are one of the most veteran of veteran pros like Rick. Even if he gets a little bit close to OBs, it just does not matter. And he finishes with 7, I repeat that, 7 strokes over Rick with a total rating of 1069 on the event. And oh yeah, did I miss it? Gannon actually almost had another ace. And despite hole 18 being one of the best out of the entire season, it still just didn't matter. And with that, that secures his 6th win of the year. And I mean, obviously he's getting player of the year. That is not even a debate. Finishing the event with 68% birdie percentage, only 3 bogeys in the entire event, and gains 16.6 strokes tee to green. And I know a lot of people have very strong thoughts on Gannon being a very boring player. They don't really care about his play style, even though it's clearly the best right now. People are saying that they just kind of check out. I get it, but honestly, this is what dominance looks like. It's not that flashy. It may not be that insanely fun to watch, but for me personally, I love it. I love seeing somebody just truly dominate. But if you are a player like Gannon that just wins so many events, I can totally get why people are probably going to hate you for some reason, because it definitely feels like the underdog is the more interesting story.
I think this is my favorite tournament of the year, and it was a little scary than I wanted it to be. Like I said, once again, Ricky, I said it yesterday, it doesn't matter how much he's back, he's always going to be pushing me. I gotta just thank my competitors that pushed me to be where I'm at right now. And so I told myself there's no reason to be nervous coming into today. Obviously I have the 5-stroke lead. The people behind me are gonna have to put in a lot of work to catch me. There's a couple things that I kind of want to just cement this season for me. I just want to get as many wins as I possibly can. Player of the year is a big goal of mine that I know I can do it. I know I can win every single week. I just got to have a good mental game, and I think that's what I did this week. I don't think you could really see me get visibly frustrated one time.
So with that, let's get into FPO. And if you were watching any point of this entire event, you would be like, man, Kristin is just not playing well. She seems so off. Like there's just no way she's even gonna be in contention. And I cannot believe it, but you'd be wrong. Even though that statement is very true, every single player in FPO in this final round just was not really fighting for the win, with Evelina going 4 over, Owen finishing even, Missy Gannon finishing 3 over. So even though Owen was leading at the start of the round, it becomes a battle between Kristin and Silva. And this battle was wild. Starting out the first couple of holes, it looked like it was probably going to be a battle between Silva and Owen, with Kristin going out of bounds on the very first hole and then kind of choking on her drive on hole 2, and then following that up with so many missed drives, missed putts, and just Kristin missing her lines again and again. And with Silva pulling away, it kind of felt like this is what she deserved. She's been dominating so much on the European circuit that it felt good to finally see what she's made of in this final stretch of the tour. Jamming in a 38-footer, 33-footer, and 48-footer all in the front 9, securing 6 birdies. And all the while, Kristin was just fighting her best to maintain par. And after the front 9, I think everybody could say, yeah, it's probably not to be Kristin's tournament. Like, there's basically no way, especially when Silva was not looking like anything was phasing her. And if you're looking at Silva's putt, like, it's perfect. And it felt like the finished Dementor was full of confidence and nothing was going to phase her. But spoiler alert, it definitely did. And I want to reiterate the score separation that we were at. On hole 13, Kristin was 5 strokes behind Silva, and Silva parked that hole. But then we move on to the final 4 holes, and this is where things get a little bit more interesting. Kristin finds herself within circle's edge, very gettable birdie look, and Silva follows it up with a first available tree hit. Are you kidding me? And even though she never shows emotion, I think she was very emotional in that moment because she basically knew she had to fight to save bogey, and Kristin, being the goat that she is, jams it in from circle's edge. And this may sound crazy, but Kristin gets a par on holes 16-17, which doesn't really seem like anything remarkable, but then Silva from about 10 feet to get an easy par does this. Maybe not 10 feet, but like for Silva, this is kind of like the equivalent to Gannon, where any of these like shorter putts are just a gimme. And I really don't even think that was the wind. I think that was just a poorly aimed putt, and it's almost certainly the pressure that was getting to her. And so she cards another bogey. And so we get to the purely chaotic hole 18. And I want to remind you what the scores are because it's very relevant. Silva is at 22 under and Kristin is at 20. So if you are Silva, if you just get par, you are doing phenomenal. There's no way that Kristin can even come close to you. And the only mistake is going OB left. So you just need to make sure you throw something with enough power and enough stability that you can throw it super wide right and it'll come right back. But Silva does that just a little bit too left and it bounces right off the road into the OB. Absolutely the last thing that she needed, but she still has a chance to save par, which is crazy. And it's just narrowly to left, and so we get a crazy playoff. And they both basically have an upshot to the exact same area, but Silva does go up first, and we know Silva is very capable of this putt, maybe 40-45 feet, but she did just miss it, and this is still in those moments where it is peak nerves, so anything can happen, and this is what happened. She just narrowly misses the basket, rolls OB, leading to a pitch up for Kristin to secure the win. This is absolutely insane. Silva should have totally dominated this event, and she basically was dominating until the final few holes. And I'm not even rooting against Kristin. I was stoked to see her win, but this is not a win that she should have gotten because Silva and Own should have stepped up a little bit more to secure this win. Now that's not to say that Kristin didn't play amazing, at least in the back nine of the entire event, but there were so many poor shots that she had that it did not feel like she was truly worthy of winning this. And so it kind of just gives everyone a bad taste in their mouth because it just didn't really feel like Kristin should have won this. And here's what she had to say.
I feel amazing. This is the perfect example of not giving up, even if things don't go your way and it seems like the win is just slipping away. But I just somehow kept going, and to turn out, to come out from this tournament as a winner, I mean, it's almost unbelievable, but it happened.
But with that, what do you guys think? I'd love to know. So be sure to go to vessi.com/wildruns. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.